Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today, guys, we are moving back to the My Favorite LJN tournament. Now, coming off two really fun review videos, looking at both the new Random Treasure figures, or Random Treasure figure, as well as the Hastel Toys, Grapplers Gimmicks action figures as well. And then the most recent My Favorite LJN tournament video, which so far, I think, coming off the previous video, so the previous video, round 1, part 24, which in all honesty probably wasn't one of my favorite videos. Mostly because, like I said in the last video, a lot of those matchups were pretty much a wash in all of them. I pretty much had an idea of where I was going to go with each matchup. But the last video, all of the matchups were enjoyable. All of them had a lot of fun talking about the matchups, and you really didn't know where you're going to go with until the very end. And even then, you still kind of question yourself whether or not you made the right decision or not. So those matchups, those are the most enjoyable. So hoping to keep that trend going with another set of 4 matchups today. Hopefully we got some good picks today. We're winding down. We're on episode 27, and I'm getting new figures in, and when I first started, I think I was at like 320, 321, 322 figures, and I've added several figures into this tournament since I began, so I estimated about 40 videos. It might actually go to 41, 42 videos with all the new additions, and I'm sure by the time I film that last video of this first round, I'm pretty sure I could probably pick up another figure or two. There is a really awesome, not SD Jones, who is it? Butch Reed. I think they use an SD Jones body, if I'm not mistaken, but there was a really incredible paint job for a Butch Reed figure that I'm currently bidding on, and fair price on auction. So hopefully, I stay the only bidder and I win it for a good price. And if that one is included, I probably won't do an individual review on that figure. I'll just save it for when it does pop up in this tournament. But here's hoping to see if I actually win. But let's dive into today's matchup and see what the competition brings. First one we're going to look at is White Mesh Brutus Beefcake, and he is going to do battle against Rip'em Hogan. So the White Mesh Brutus. I know there's what I've been deeming to be the Zebra Pants Brutus. Kind of like white pants with black dots, but I don't think that's what that one is. I think that's a separate one. I'm trying to picture it right now, and I think I have an idea of which figure that might be. Alright, so this is the Kane Stud figure. And he is going to do battle against, Black Hawk, a.k.a. Road Warriors Hawk with spikes. That is a fantastic matchup. X-Pac, a.k.a. 123 Kid, is going to square off against Puma Piper. Alright, and the last matchup. Let's dig into the bottom. Get some rarities, hopefully. From Wrestling Rider, we're going to see IRS as he squares off against the Black and Gold $1 Million Man. So, our names have been pulled, or drawn. Let's go ahead and pull those figures, and we will begin in a split second. Alright, folks, so figures drawn, and this is going to be a fun video. I honestly don't know where I'm going to go with. I think maybe one of them is relatively an easy decision, but the rest of these, shoot, I have no idea. Alright, so this first figure is a Brutus Beefcake, and I'm not sure where I got this from. Generally, when I get a lot of these figures on the bottom shelf, I think I got them from Stinger GQ off of eBay, and again, I've said it before. Buddy, he's not a He's not a customizer. He's just a reseller. But I've got a million things from him in the past. LJNs, Hasbro's, ton of other things as well. But the man just has like an unbelievable collection. And I've pretty much usurped a ton of his stuff already. So when I see these figures, it's when I see the abundance of figures that don't necessarily come from a particular customizer, more times than not, it probably came from one of his auctions. And it is the White Pants Mesh Brutus Beefcake, as he does battle against Random Treasures Rip 'em figure. We'll start with the Hogan figure. So, I've been mentioning in these videos a lot that with the sheer quantity of reutilization of the Series 5 Hogan, it kind of gets to a point where you kind of get frustrated because they keep using the same figure to make all of these figures, but I keep buying them, so I must appreciate them, right? When I first talked to Net a couple years, now it wasn't 2 years ago. I don't know when I bought this. I want to say sometime in 2023. I mean, when? I don't know. Late 2022, early sometime in 2023. I don't remember. And one of the things we discussed was possibly using a Series 1 Hulk Hogan because I am a fan of the Series 1 Hogan. But when it boiled down to it, I wanted the Rip 'em figure. And I decided to go with the Series 5 because I just think that it just looks better on a Series 5 figure than the Series 1. So I love the playability and overall look of a Series 1, but I've got about 10,000 of these particular type of figures because customization wise they're perfect. It's a must-have in for the most part. When you look at these figures, you're not really focusing on play pose. Yeah, these are rubber, right? But I kind of view the Series 5 figures to an extent, to a level that you would classify your resin figures. When I look at a resin figure, I'm basically I'm justifying that play pose isn't a necessity because it's not a playable. It's not an action figure. It's a statue. So play pose doesn't really matter because you're not sitting there and utilizing it as a playable action figure. You're not going to give it to your kids. You yourself are not going to sit down there and have matches with said figure, what have you. So, and I think kind of looking back at like the last one of the last matchups I had with the New Japan Pro Wrestling Random Treasures Hogan, kind of looking that figure over with the paint and everything, with the colors, I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'm not as mad about having an additional Series 5 figure as much as I thought. Actually, kind of sitting down and reviewing that figure, I'm like, you know what? And kind of thinking about it over the last few days, I'm actually enjoying that figure even more than I initially thought. So that's why these videos are so much fun, man. A lot of times you get the figures in, you kind of look them over, it's like, okay, awesome. And you put them on the shelf, and you literally spend a matter of seconds looking at it. Like, you can really enjoy it, but you're not sitting there and like nitpicking every individual detail. But when you sit down and you do reviews, or when you're sitting down and you're making like tournament videos like these, absolutely, you want to sit there and you want to dive onto every single individual aspect of the figure, because you want to, obviously, you want to be able, during the reviews, you want to critique the figure, and during tournaments like this, you want to make sure that you make the right decision by selecting your favorite piece. And Rip 'em, as you know, Rip Thomas from No Holds Barred. I still say that No Holds Barred is the best wrestling movie. I know a lot of people out there are going to rip on Hulk Hogan, not the best actor, but, you know, Suburban Commando and Mr. Nanny and all those. I freaking love those movies as a kid. And over the last couple of years, I've actually gone back and watched them either on YouTube or had to download or something. And they still hold up. Suburban Commando is still cheesy as heck, but it's a cheesy sci-fi movie that's still enjoyable. And I think No Holds Barred is a fantastic movie no matter what age you are or what era you grew up in. Now, with this particular Brutus Beefcake, not necessarily better than the original Brutus Beefcake that you get from LJN. So they did alter the positioning of the arm. In reality, is it better to go from like this to from like this to this? That limits his playability. But think of like the Howard Finkel, the first Howard Finkel figure I got. You take Mean Gene Okerlund, whose hands are out like this, so you kind of alter his hand so that the arm is inward like this, and that way the microphone is facing towards his mouth, right? So you kind of alter the arm, you change the figure completely, make it its own unique figure of sorts. So I do like that aspect, and kind of not just painting the portion of the leg here to mimic a mesh opening or whatnot, but actually having the leg open part and then building on mesh into the leg. Beautiful, brilliant construction of this figure. Throwing an accessory, again, altering the arm and kind of looking at the arm. Yeah, they didn't do the best job. You can still see the line on the arm where it's been cut and remolded, but unless you're sitting there and I'm like really focusing on it, when you're sitting on it, when it's sitting on the shelf, all you're seeing is this, right? Looks spectacular. I don't know. Kind of looking these guys over, I thought maybe at first glance Brutus may have had the leg up, but kind of talking about it, the history of the Rip'em figure, maybe I like this one a lot more than I gave it credit for. But with so many, and I'm not even exaggerating, so many freaking Series 5 figures. There are probably 3 or 4 Series 5 Hulk Hogan figures that I own that aren't even in this tournament, because maybe they're white shirt or red shirt repaints and they're customs, but they're made to look like the original figures. And because they're made to look like the original, I decided not to include them, even though the color is really splashy and really pops, right? So there's still a ton of figures that aren't included that I own that will not be shown in this tournament. And yeah, many of them are Series 5 type Hogans. And kind of getting the white belt. And I feel like the white belt is impeccable for the right figures. Obviously, he had the white championship belt in the movie, so it was necessary for this figure. And the white belt works beautifully. I think a black belt might have worked as well, but in fact, the white belt isn't so white anymore. I'm just noticing that the white belt is starting to get a little bit discolored. Maybe sitting on the bottom of the shelf. Well, actually, no, it doesn't sit on the bottom of the shelf. This is like right in the middle area with the rest of the Random Treasure figures. I didn't think that the championship belts could get discolored, but you live, you learn. I don't know. It's a toss-up. I'm going to go with Brutus, though, guys. Accessory got me on this one. I really love the mesh opening. I think the inclusion of that particular design, like I said, was so clever, so brilliant, and really ties in the figure. I don't think this was necessary. I think that if they just left the original arm up the way that it was before, it would have been fine. But, and that's actually built in, so maybe I like that too. I mean, the accessory doesn't have to be removable. So I like both figures. Either one could have excelled moving forward in the tournament, but I'm gonna go with Brutus on this one. Next matchup, and this is probably no, I'm not gonna say probably, it is. For this video, This would be like the sort of pay-per-view type matchup, which features Kane as he does battle against Ram Treasure's Hawk. So we will look at Kane first. So when we look at Kane, right, we already know what the Big John Stud figure in of itself means to me. So I've always said that Big John Stud, and I'll probably mention this when we finally do pick the Big John Stud figure out to review. Because Big John Stud, the way that his arms are positioned, it reminds me, it's so reflective of the Sid Vicious Galoob figure. And that was my favorite childhood toy. It was the most used, most joyful. And to me, to this day, that Sid Vicious is still my George Washington of action figures. So, take this out of the stand. And so when I look at Big John Stud, I kind of feel the same way. It's very similar pose. I didn't watch a whole lot of Big John Stud as a kid, and in fact, the only thing I can remember about Big John Stud comes from like home videos or flashback videos and stuff like that, right? I don't actually remember watching him live on TV or anything like that. Now, Kane. Using Big John Stud to create Kane, I think was fantastic, was absolutely brilliant. Now, one of the figures that I have that they use, what did they use? I think they used a Hillbilly Jim to customize Kane. Because it's got that body type like so. So, Big John Stud to me, I think is very more up. You want to think of Kane as a dynamic force, right? You're having yourself a little Royal Rumble. You bring Kane in, and you want the figure that when you hold it, you just know you're gonna exact some damage in the ring. Big John Stud, he's got that girth, he's got that weight to the figure, he's got that fantastic grip, awesome fighting pose. It's a reason why I still list Big John Stud as my #1 favorite LJN, even though I probably list all of these other figures as having higher attributes. So, go figure, right? And the overall paint scheme. There's like no blemish on here. This is absolute perfection. Now, the mask, I thought they may have painted it on, but nope, this is like some kind of cloth or something, and I think they glued it onto the face, so you can't actually take it off, but I think that works perfectly. I don't know if they needed to paint the hair black. I think that would have helped, and if they could have found some way to like get rid of the beard and made him, have him without facial hair, would have really given him a nice Kane look. I'm not very familiar with this particular look, to be honest. The other Kane that I have, that I got from John Ruggiero, that is the more familiar one. With the all red and kind of like red with black lines going kind of like stripes down the shirt. But this is a killer figure. I mean, this is absolutely incredible. When I talk about, I don't know if this figure makes it to the end. When I say end, in reality, series or round 5 is what we're looking for, because round 7 is your finals, your last 2 standing, your semifinals, last 4 standing, and round 6. So those two rounds really don't necessarily count, and round 5, it's going to give you your last massive layout of pristine figures. Does this make it to round 5? Based on all of the figures in this tournament, you would say it would be very hard. But come on, man. Name recognition. Everything that I love about a wrestling figure, from size, weight, girth, this figure has. Paint scheme and color and detail throughout is perfection. there is no doubt that this should be right there at the end. Now imagine this figure goes up against Big John Studd, who just seems to be in the finals or near the finals every time. That's going to be an interesting match. Because then I don't know who I choose in that scenario. But Kane, he definitely has one of my favorite figures. And from Ram Treasures, I've always said that the Legion of Doom, I classify them as Legion of Doom Red. Legion of Doom Red or Legion of Doom Black. So one of the things that was missing from the Legion of Doom Red were the chest plates. Those spikes, I felt like were so important on the red figures, and it was a shame that we didn't get them on those particular figures. But they look spectacular, and I've always said Legion of Doom may not have been Ram Treasure's pristine figures, but I still felt like they were among their cream of the crop figures, as I call them. Now, later on, when they came out with more Legion of Doom / Road Warrior figures, and they added AWA era Road Warrior Black with spikes, you took unbelievable figures and you just put them so far over the top, it was unbelievable. Now with Animal, they had to actually change his pose from like the weaker Ken Patera pose to more like a Arn Anderson type pose in order to fit the spikes and the chest plates. Now because of the sort of Nikolai Volkov type pose, Hawk was able to maintain his very similar pose. I don't know what to say other than fantastic. Are the Road Warriors with spikes top 10 Ram Treasure figures? They've got so many awesome pieces. It's hard to really tell at this particular moment. At some point, I feel like I'm going to have to sit down one day and kind of do a new countdown. And because there are so many figures, north of 60, I'm probably going to have to break that down into like 5 or 6 videos. You know, let's say 10 figures per video. And so 10 figures per video, 6 videos, and do a countdown like 1 through 10, 11 through 20, etc. I think that's going to be a nice little countdown video set of videos in the future. So that's something that I want to have planned for the docket in the future. Legion of Doom, my whole life has been my all-time favorite tag team, and I love Legion of Doom because of the overall look. I love the face paint. I love the darn chest plates. I thought they looked so badass. As big musclehead guys, and you hear his stories about them that they weren't trained wrestlers, that they were nothing but muscleheads, that they were found in the gym, brought in, and they didn't know how to do anything other than sit there and body slam everybody. But when I watched Legion of Doom, I watched these guys climb the darn top rope, do flying clotheslines, and all this incredible aerial techniques that you would think of when you think of like Rockers and stuff like that, right? And Rockers are really probably the only tag team that I would probably put in competition to replace Legion of Doom as my top favorite tag team of all time. This is an unbelievably killer figure, and this is not a matchup I want to have. If one of these figures were eliminated in round 1, it's pathetic. If one of these figures are eliminated in round 2, it's still a very poor and sad run in this tournament. If one of these figures were eliminated in round 3, it's still a depressing round. If one of these figures make it to round 4, I've always said any figure, regardless of what it is, gets to round 4. Round 4 to me is a solid run for any figure. It definitely puts you among the best of the best. I don't want to see a one and done on these figures. Sometimes when I look at the matchups, I'm like, nah, this matchup can't happen. Let's choose another name. But I can't do that. I gotta be fair, right? That's why when you do these random drawings, it doesn't tell you who your number 2 favorite figure is, who your number 3 favorite is, who your number 12 favorite is, who your number 22 favorite is. It literally only gives you your number 1 favorite. Because even if you're in the finals and your last 2 figures in hand, it doesn't necessarily mean that that figure that's left over is your number 2 favorite. It just happens to be that that's the one that lucked out and had the right luck of the draw to face the right competition. I can't take all day on this. I am going to go with Kane. At the end of the day, when you think about my past tournaments and you think about the Big John Studd figure, which this figure is molded after or is painted out over, and you think about the success of that figure, look at all the additional attributes that this figure holds that the regular Big John Studd figure doesn't have. And for the type of run that that figure has had in my past 2 tournaments, I see this as a 5th round figure, maybe later. And I would love to see Big John Studd squaring off against Kane, because I am curious to see how I would choose between the two. Do I choose originality, or do I choose the one with the upgrade? But this was a tough loss. This to me, like I said, minimum 3rd round figure, at least a 4th round. This did not deserve to be gone in the 1st round. This is sad. Alright, next matchup was 1-2-3 Kid versus Puma Piper. And we'll start with Piper. Certain figures that I have, like Roddy Piper, like the Series 5 Hogan, like Brutus Beefcake. I'm trying to think. I've got several Honky Tonk Man figures, several $1 Million Man figures. So yeah, there are certain figures that I have an overabundance of. And it's sad because there are a lot of customizers out there that keep making these great figures that I keep wanting to pick up, but I can't get them, like additional Slick figures or additional Vince McMahon figures or stuff like that, because I have such an abundance of these particular characters already. This Puma, I don't know if that is painted on or if that's a decal, because it looks like it's paint, to be honest. It looks like it's drawn on. Like, I don't see, like, I'm feeling around and I don't feel oh, maybe that's it. Nah, maybe that is a sticker. I don't know. I feel something right here. But among the Roddy Piper figures, I think of the black shirt Roddy Piper that has Hot Rod on it, but the Hot Rod is so, it like just shoots out at you like so, right? Kind of remember like old school HBO. When HBO used to come up, it had like those little bubbles, and the lines used to come down onto the bubbles, and it used to kind of like dart out at you like so, like 3D, like it's jumping out at the screen at you. That's kind of what that Roddy Piper Hot Rod kind of remind me of, right? And that one was probably my favorite. I don't think even that Roddy Piper made it to the next round. Do I think that any of the other Pipers have a legitimate shot of going any further than round 2? I mean, some of these aren't exactly in the best condition, but they come with accessories, you know, blue trunks on the bottom, and he squares off against 1-2-3 Kid. I feel like every time I talk about a character that I've been deeming worthy to be LJN, I always bring up certain figures that I wanted, and I feel like that's becoming redundant at this stage. Yes, Yokozuna. Yes, the Rockers. Got it. But 1-2-3 Kid was definitely one of those characters. And in my video where we talked about Berserker for Rem Treasures, I mentioned that when you look up and down the Hasbro roster, any of those characters, and honestly, if you look at not just the characters, but if you look at the actual look from the Hasbro line, if you can create those particular looks and turn those into LJN, I would love to see Hasbro's upscaled into LJN rubber form. When Raider Nation came out with 123 Kid, I was so freaking excited. The only thing I was disappointed with, in all honesty, is the black. I would have loved if this was his more well-known blue 123 Kid getup, because that is what I'm very familiar with. When I think of Hasbro, I think blue, his blue getup, right? And seeing him in all black, to me, this is more like an X-Pac type look than 123 Kid. And yes, 123 Kid did have this exact look as well, but I kind of associate X-Pac with black and 123 Kid with blue. So that's where my mind goes. And once again, with Raider Nation, they're always using high dollar, high quality LJN figures to make their figures. So you're taking you're taking a Rick Martel, a very expensive figure from LJN and through Strike Force and Strike Force tag teams. I mean, those figures together, they're going to give you a good $100, $120. Rick Martel, he alone is probably a good $50 to $75 worth. I mean, Tito Santana, he's only valuable because he's Strike Force, but Tito Santana's a bad figure nonetheless. So this matchup really was a toss-up. Not really a whole lot to say about this particular matchup. Yes, I do expect 123 Kid to make it to round 5. Not round 2 or 3. I don't expect him to be going up against stiff competition in round 4 and be eliminated. No. If 123 Kid isn't in round 5, there's something severely wrong. Because, yes, this is one of my absolute favorite pieces. Love the 123 Kid figure, and using Rick Martel, brilliant. And I come to find out later on that that whole pinning Razor Ramon thing was actually Scott Hall's idea. Because, you know, guys like Barry Horowitz and 123 Kid, who was, like Barry Horowitz, he defeated some guy named Sonny. I don't remember Sonny, but he defeated Sonny, and all of a sudden Barry Horowitz is like in Royal Rumbles vying for spots in WrestleMania, right? Or he gets signed to like big contracts to be like this big name recognition in WCW. When I think jobbers, there's very few names that come to mind. Like I don't really sit there and watch these squash matches because they're just that. They're squash matches. They're like 30-second to 2-minute matches, and there's not really any competition, so you don't really pay attention to the jobbers. At least I didn't. And 123 Kid or Lightning Kid, The Kid, etc. All these different names he kind of went by. Sean Waltman. But it was actually Scott Hall who actually said that it'd be a good idea. It would be nice to kind of like, you know, would it be cool if he actually defeated me? And rest of the history is told from there. Then he had his nice little beef with Razor Ramon and tag team champion and Royal Rumble participant, and moving on to WCW where he did his thing over there. Just, yeah. I don't know if 123 Kid is in WWF Hall of Fame. I think he is. If he's not, he will be one day. But that's got to be the easiest decision of this video. I like this matchup because it pins Money Incorporated against each other. And let's start with $1 Million Man. And he's one of those characters, like I said, I've got an absolute ton of $1 Million Man figures. Some subtle upgrades here and there. Lightning or lighting up the money, so you got a more reasonable, lighter tone green for the money. So original $1 Million Man had sort of like a purple outline to his jacket, whatnot. Here they just made everything gold. I do like the way that the black and gold pops a lot more than the purple and gold. But I've got multiple purple and black, black and gold, white and black, or white and purple, white and gold. So I mean, I got the green suit of $1 Million Man. I got plenty of $1 Million Man figures in this tournament. And in fact, I think this is probably the first one I've seen in this tournament. Yeah, it's got to be. I'm trying to remember all of my matches, but I don't remember talking about $1 Million Man at any point during this tournament. I'm not saying I haven't had one before, but Mike Rotunda. I mean, there's certain names that you learn when you start the process of collecting. I only knew him as Erwin R. Shyster, and for the life of me, I just thought Erwin R. Shyster was his name. I mean, as a kid, I didn't know any better. I didn't watch any of these tag teams before. I never seen his face before he took on the moniker of IRS. So apparently a lot of folks thought that IRS was going to be like this stupid gimmick that just simply wasn't going to work. And because the performer, like born with, like Matt Osborne with freaking Doink. You don't think of a Doink of a freaking clown character being, over the top, but he freaking made that character his own and was absolutely brilliant in the role. Mike Rotunda as IRS made it his own, and he was freaking brilliant. He was a fantastic wrestler, and that's what happens when you're an outstanding performer. So IRS, legendary performer in WWF. Who cares if you thought it was a bad gimmick or not? To me, I mean, it was a fine gimmick, and kind of going with $1 Million Man, it was brilliant. So in the 90s. Once Money Incorporated came together, I think the whole deal was $1 Million Man was obviously battling a lot of injuries, back problems, and it seems like it's always going to be back issues. And, I'm getting up there in my age myself, and I'm dealing with back problems. Like last week, I tried mowing the grass, or a week before, and all I did was kind of bend over to pull the string to start mowing the grass again. And I threw my back out. Spent the rest of the day on the couch. I'll tell you, man, I finally know what it means to be incapacitated. I mean completely incapacitated, where if you're lying there and even the slightest movement, you can't even like move your arm underneath you a little bit to kind of like push yourself up without experiencing the most extreme pain ever. That crap sucks. I don't recommend it to anybody. But, so those back problems, that crap's no joke. $1 Million Man, one of the best performers. Member of the Rat Pack with Duggan and Matt Osborne back in AWA days. To me, still one of the greatest bad guys ever. With the $1 Million Man and IRS, it was a tag team made in heaven. But with injuries, it was necessary that he had a partner because it was up to IRS to kind of take on all of the grunt work in the ring. Yokozuna, Owen Hart, another perfect example. Yokozuna kept putting on more and more weight, was no longer agile or could barely move in the ring. He needed somebody to basically take over the load of work for him. So you start tagging him up with an awesome performer like Owen Hart, and you make him multiple-time tag team champion. Happened with Money Incorporated, and seeing them wiggle out of losing the championship to natural disasters, I'm like, that's BS. Lose your titles like men. Oh man, the figures. I mean, these guys, they're a lot of fun to talk about. And there are more, because I know a lot about Million Dollar Man, because again, he is at least somebody I grew up watching. He's probably one of maybe 5 to 10 guys that I actually have a whole lot of memories about. I'm not going to mention all of my life stories or memories about Million Dollar Man, but so I'm going to save some of those stories for future videos. From Wrestling Rider, we got the IRS custom, and it kind of utilizes a very similar Greg Valentine-esque pose. Not bad. I mean, I enjoyed picking it up when I got it. Today I don't really value it as much as I used to. And I really haven't valued it in a long time as much as I once did. Once upon a time, I think that this was a fantastic, brilliant figure. I mean, I still say it's a good figure. I mean, I love the fact that I'm able to add IRS to the roster, but even though it's a custom, and I've got plenty of Million Dollar Man customs, Million Dollar Man is going to be my choice. Even with the big wad of money in his hand, I still think overall it's still a much more playable and enjoyable action figure. And like I said, the black and gold, it really makes the figure pop. And at least it's, a realistic look where it's just, I don't know, the mold is just too fake for me. So yeah, at over 41 minutes, almost 42 minutes, I had to make a quick decision. So Million Dollar Man for me is my winner. He will move on to round 2. And this is going to close out round 1, part 26, I believe. So, all right. I don't know if I have any other videos coming out this week. So, if things stay as they are right now, instead of having 3 videos and then something else, I'll probably keep going straight. So we might have another 6 straight tournament videos before I pause again. 9 straight tournament videos. We'll see what happens. But if anything changes, you guys will see ahead of time, because I like to post the videos or schedule the videos ahead of time. So you guys are always up to date with what's doing on what date. So, but guys, as always, thank you for allowing me to share my videos with you guys. I look forward to talking to you in the comments, and see you in the next video. Take care, everybody.